evening, councillors. I declare the meeting open for the 18th of November 2020. In accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice, this council meeting is being recorded and will be placed on Council's website for public information. All present today are reminded that by speaking, you are agreeing to your view and comments being recorded and published. You are also reminded that if or when speaking, you are to be respectful to others and use appropriate language. Greater Hume Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures during this meeting. I'm going to actually declare the meeting open and call upon Councillor O'Neill if she would lead us in prayer. Thank you, Councillor O'Neill.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your blessings. We ask for your strength and guidance throughout this meeting and thereafter as we look to serve the residents of this Shire. We ask for clear thinking and sincere hearts as we approach the business matters we will be discussing shortly. We ask for your blessings upon this meeting, each participant and the work and people they represent. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. The item number 3, the acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri people, and I pay my respect to their elders past and present. We have an apology and applications for leave of absence by 2 of our councillors. Councillor Parker is first one, and Councillor Weston.
Yeah, I'll move that we accept.
Thank you.
Second that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hicks and Councillor Quinn, all in favour? We don't have our usual scribe here with us tonight, so I ask you to be patient with our scribes' stand-ins. I'm sure they'll cope very well. Item number 5, confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Meyer, and seconded,
I'll second.
Councillor Hicks. Any comments or questions, Councillor Meyer or Councillor Hicks,
No.
or councillors? No? Prepared to vote? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you very much. Action report.
Madam Mayor,
Anything? Any page and page number and item?
page number 14, 5733, in regards to the Weybridge tenders or unsuccessful tenders. I was just looking at the wording, really, unsuccessful letter sent to tenderers. Should it be perhaps correspondence forwarded to unsuccessful tenders? It was just making it look like we sent an unsuccessful letter to them. Thank you.
Anything else? Any other comments, questions? Prepared to vote, councillors? All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Disclosure of interests.
Yes, you should have one there from me.
Thank you. Notices of motion. No notices of motion. No. Okay, reports. Officers' reports. Item number 1, page 3.
I'd like to move the recommendation with the wording that Council resolve to submit its submission that objects to the development of the Glenellan Solar Farm as described in the EIS for the Glenellan Solar Farm.
Thank you.
Second, Madam Mayor.
Seconder, Councillor Meyer. Do you wish to speak, Councillor O'Neill?
Mr Kane's points that he's put across are, I think, are very relevant. The only an extra thing that I would see would be looking at the way the traffic would be travelling. I really can't imagine that amount of traffic coming through Gindra's main street, which is already congested. As lots of locals say, you can't even get a park in the main street. So if we're going to have all these extra trucks and vehicles coming through, it's going to be an accident waiting to happen, I think. So I would probably like to see something more done about that.
Councillor Meyer, do you wish to speak?
I will speak in support, Madam Mayor, but you should be taking somebody in opposition first.
Councillor Quinn?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll speak in opposition. Madam Mayor, this is the fourth submission to exhibit to the Environment Impact Statement that Council's analysed. I've come to the conclusion over the many, many months that we've discussed these issues that Council has a very arrogant attitude towards solar farms in the Shire, and also a very ignorant attitude. I'd suggest that very few people know exactly where these solar farms are, what the land is actually about. Just recently, I seen a visual display, I think you'd call it, about the Wallace Solar Farm, whereby the director, Mr. Kane, and the deputy mayor were very involved. I was totally embarrassed by the whole show. I would object to 90 to 95% of what they put up, and I can prove that my objections were right. In this case, back to Glen Ellen, we hang in on the fact that we've got to preserve good agricultural country. Gindra is expanding all the time using good agricultural country for housing. Tonight we're going to enlarge the industrial estate. Good agricultural country for industry. And I could go on. Waste development, good agriculture. It's what you call movement forward, action, what happens in life. To have this sort of block that nothing can happen because it's agricultural country. Most of the solar farms that we've analysed, if you have a look back in history, you'll find out that the land has changed several times in the last 30 years in most places. All this figment of imagination that pioneers came out here and developed this country, it's all. Agriculture is no different to any other business. It's a business. Land is making staggering dollars around the Albury-Wodonga area because it's close to Albury-Wodonga, a big mass of people, 2 universities, etc. The change in future is that we're going to need energy. And whilst all along I've had reservations about solar power, according to the experts, it's the new thing coming in. If everybody knocks back solar because of agricultural reasons, agricultural country, in 10 years' time are people going to study by candlelight because there'll be no coal-fired power stations, etc.? It's all about development, what's moving forward. If you stay still and not development, you won't go anywhere. If Gindra hadn't, I had a discussion many, many years ago with a person in Gindra. They said, we want Gindra to stay the way it is. If it had stayed the way it is, it would have withered up by now. But it's expanded to an enormous place. And so I think that this solar farm is this application is in an ideal position. It'll be a great benefit for the community as it's built. And I think the conditions that we put on the development of the roads, etc., it'll be all good for the area. Sure, people object, and I know this outfit haven't suggested any money to council. And ask yourself, councillors, when everybody in council's opposed to you, why would you suggest you give them money? Just why would you? If they say, you know, we don't want you. Why would you give them any money? I've read the objections, Madam Mayor, and naturally people have different ideas and they object sort of thing. Over the Neon Solar Farm, I had neighbours that say to me, well, your land will be worth nothing. One of the same neighbours now wants to buy me out. It's an amazing thing how quickly things change. But in conclusion, I think we're making it right for our own bat as a council by knocking all these back. It's a development of the future. It's what's going to happen, and you might say, well, let it happen somewhere else. If we don't have development, we'll wither like everybody else.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer.
That's my private comment. Before Councillor Meyer speaks, if I may. I will endeavour to be on all the Zoom meetings in future, expressing my opinion. It might be different to council, but I'll certainly, the Wallace Solar Farm, I certainly put in a submission in writing, but in future I'll be matching whoever's on the Zoom panel from council.
Thank you. Councillor Meyer.
Madam Mayor, it would be incorrect of council not to object, because this sort of process offers the opportunity, or makes the opportunity arise for people to lodge their objections, to properly debate the issue. One of the things that we're faced with this year because of the COVID is that the public can't come together as a group to lodge their objections in the proper democratic way. I'm the first to admit that while some people like Zoom, there are a number of people who are shied off it. And Zoom does not give them the opportunity to properly express it, nor does mailing a letter in that gets read by people that nobody knows. I would encourage all the councillors to vote for the recommendation as put forward by the planning officer, and I think it's imperative that we follow the due process to lodge our objection so that the debate can be continued as such.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yes. Do you wish to say anything, Councillor Sherwood?
No, thank you.
No.
No. I guess one of my major concerns here is the fact that there are 84 people being affected by this development. Some people will also then be affected by the Gindred development. And they have the right to be living where they thought, in a lovely rural setting, and not to be facing this industrial expanse of solar panels. Also, the whole fact that said Gindra is developing, and this is going to limit the direction it can develop further.
Thank you. No further speakers. The motion is up there. Recommendation. I'm going to ask you to vote those in favour of the recommendation. Councillor Meyer, Councillor O'Neill. Where do you stand, Councillor Schill? You're voting for the motion though.
No, she's voting against the motion.
You're going to vote against it. Okay. So, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Meyer in favour of the recommendation. Councillor Quinn against. Councillor Schulb, and I'm going to vote against it also. So that is lost. So now we've got to
We've got to put forward another motion.
Another motion instead. So, do you have anything that you can advise us on, Mr. Kane?
Well, if it was within meeting rules, I think the alternative is just to raise concerns. If councillors still hold my letter to be items of concern to them, well then that's the alternate resolution that could be decided upon by council as to whether they're going to now raise concerns along the lines of that letter. And if councillors weren't happy with that, well then we would have to come up with something other than that letter. An alternate letter would have to be
Councillor Quinn, do you
Well,
have
I think,
an
Madam Mayor,
alternate?
I'd suggest that we have an attitude around traffic management. I see that as a key factor. And we're different people, the director and myself. I don't see the social impact of these sort of things. I measure it other ways. But I think the traffic impact has got to be looked at very specifically. I don't like the idea of traffic coming through Gindra. I think it's got to come through the north, and therefore I think there's got to be a big commitment. I'd be guided by the engineer, but a big commitment to developing, whether it be Glen Ellen Road or Waller Road, because I really think it'd be too upsetting for everybody, for the truckies and the people of Gindra to go through several roundabouts.
All right. Do you want to frame something up around that? To raise concerns around that in particular? There are the traffic concerns raised at the end of the document. Whether that's satisfactory or not.
I'd suggest that we write a letter saying that our major concerns are the traffic management, whether it be from the north or the south, and if the project was to go ahead, there would have to be significant road input so that the locals in all the surrounds wouldn't be affected. Now, I'm hoping somebody up the front can perhaps put a little bit better English photo.
Is putting something together.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I think it'd be difficult in a meeting setting to devise an entire letter. So I don't know whether meeting rules allow us to come up with an alternate letter and then circulate that based on dot points tonight. But I mean, it's really a multifaceted proposal. That's the EIS there, 300 pages, and then there was multiple appendices to that. If councillors are in mind just to hone in on traffic issues, that would be okay, I'd imagine, and perhaps we could draft something along those lines tonight. But if it was going to be a complete rewrite of the letter, I think that would be difficult to do in a meeting setting. So I'm not sure of the way forward.
Well, I would think, Madam Mayor, if the only concerns are around traffic, then that's all we put in the letter.
Are you comfortable with that, Councillor Quinn?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I see that as the major, I hope I was clear enough in suggesting how land's used for all sorts of reasons, BG housing and industrial estates, etc. It's all former agricultural land. I dismiss that concept, but I think the road management is the main factor. If they decide to go ahead, all these other things, the accommodation, all that sort of thing, it's their problem to solve, not ours. But certainly the road management is a thing that will concern our ratepayers, and I think that's the big thing.
So I think we can say along the line that traffic management as access to the site from the north would require significant contribution to road upgrades. In respect to the traffic management with the development, with access to the development from the north,
I think on some issues, as Councillor Quinn mentioned, this is the fourth solar farm development. I think it's really difficult in some instances, in my mind, for council to propagate certain arguments and then not to continue to press them. One that springs to mind is the contributions. Because if councillors are in mind to just raise concerns and don't choose to continue with that line of line of thought, well then it's quite likely that the department would say that, you know, no contribution should be payable on this development after we've insisted the proper contributions be paid on the previous three. So that's just one aspect that springs to mind, but I think, look, I encourage councillors to just think about those issues that we have raised in the previous letters, and just to say, well, you know, we're just going to discount all of them now and just focus on traffic, just seems to be a little bit at odds of where we've been with previous submissions. My personal opinion is it may be enough to raise these issues with the traffic, but just turn the submission to raise concerns, which would still give a different pathway for this company. Instead of going through the IPC, unless there's 30 submissions privately submitted, it won't go through the IPC and it'll go be a staff determination. So it's quite a different pathway. So with that in mind, councillors need to consider what we resolve tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I just
Yes.
make a comment?
Yes.
With the submission, as Mr. Kane just said, can we still include those 5 points that are listed on page 3? But the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues is the road or the traffic, that as Councillor Quinn has mentioned. Seeing we still include those other issues, but on a lesser front, perhaps, if that's the right wording, that we receive submissions again, you know, and that those other 5 headings were some of the things that were important. Is that what it's? Would that be better? Yes.
I think we need to suspend standing orders, have a proper discussion about this. So,
I'll
can you
move
move?
suspend then.
Thank you, Councillor Schill, Councillor Meyer. All in favour, carried. Now, I think I'm a bit worried that we've just dispensed with the recommendation from Mr. Kane, and now we're sort of going to put it together in another way. So it's sort of a, you know, I think we need to decide how we want to handle it, really. So I think, comment.
My concept, Madam Mayor and councillors, would be the resolution that's written up there, and the second part of it, call that A, and B would be that they sign on board with the voluntary VPA.
Voluntary payment agreement.
Yeah, like each of the other solar farms had.
Turn your microphone on, councillor.
Like they sign on board with the VPA contribution like each of the other solar farms have, and that would lock that in. But I don't agree with these other things. That's why I wipe them out. The development will result in adverse environment, social and economic impact on the local community. I believe the opposite, actually. So you've you could have argued that in reverse before Pomegranate subdivision happened. But that's what just happens in life, sort of thing. These things just happen, sort of thing. And
I think that's Councillor Greenwood. Someone turns off their light. Councillor Quinn, we've added an additional point there which you might have a look at as well.
Councillor Quinn, you'll move.
well, that's the way I'm going to move, Madam Mayor. That the point 1 and 2
Resume standing order.
of that resolution, if I get a seconder, and it will go to an independent planning. There'll be 50 submissions. They're very organised, people against this solar farm, and the independent panel's seen all the rhetoric beforehand, so I think it'd be good for them to see that council has got a bit of a change of direction. My apologies.
Thank you. Just before we go back in and resume standing orders, is there any further
Yes.
Yeah.
I would still like to see something more about the traffic going through the middle of Gindra, because if we're looking at 200 heavy vehicles a day, going through the middle of Gindra is just not on. Someone's going to be killed.
Well, what that motion is saying
It's-
is that the preferred option for, I think, the developer is to come from the north. I think
Yes,
that's correct, isn't it? Councillor, Mr. Kane?
That is correct.
Yeah. So,
I would think on traffic issues, having read the EIS, that is a little bit limiting alone. There's certain, if I can be, because we're, look, I personally think some work should occur on the intersection of Linda and Walla Walla Road. There's, quite a lot of traffic issues there. That's quite. It's a 100-kilometre-an-hour road where the road's sitting just beneath the crest. In my mind, there's quite a few things where I think we would want to press with traffic alone, in my personal opinion, than just saying that they had to approach from the north. Which, like, if we went back to my letter, they were some of those aspects there where we said the following traffic-related recommended conditions are proposed in the event of the approval of this application. To enhance safety, council requests further improved treatment options for the Gindra Walla Walla Road intersection with Linda Road to be submitted for council consideration. Improvement, because we were working on the premise that it was, perhaps staff were working on the premise that it was better to come from the south because the roads were safer and wider and better constructed despite the problems with Gindra. That shows some of the there's problems with each traffic route, whether it comes from the north or the south. Both of them have got difficulties at the moment. No, you don't have the population. So if they were coming from the south, maybe we could flag, if in the event it comes from the south, that we want something done to the intersection of the Ureno Walla Walla Gindra Road. We flagged that with the Gindra solar farm because we were concerned about that intersection. I've said a pre-construction dilapidation study of Ordlip and Linda roads needs to look. I would think that councillors might be of a mind to add sub-points to that condition number 1 to include the points from my letter.
These points.
These dot points.
These dot points. 4, 5, 6 of them.
Yeah, I think that would be prudent in my mind, but I'm in councillors' hands.
And I don't think there's any problem, Mr. Kane, in doing that, because those points aren't in your original recommendation. They're in your letter. But I think the big issue is that I think the feeling from the councillors here is that they don't want the traffic coming through Gindra, which is probably a little bit at odds with one of the other developments. But I think that's the issue.
It could be then that another dot point got added to it to say council wants to, the engineer may assist me, may want certain upgrades to be done to Glenallen Road, which is the route that they're proposing. So they're proposing to come out the Olympic Highway, turn at Georgery, come down to Georgery West, go up to Glenallen Road, turn onto the Walligindra Road, head south, turn into Linda Road, and then turn into Portland Road. So, look, I would think that there's certainly works that council should be requiring even on that route alone.
Well, can we modify point 1 to include some assessment of required works along the proposed route? So could we say respect to the traffic management of the proposed route and an in-depth study be undertaken of the upgrade works required?
Well, we certainly could do that. I mean, there was a lot of studies done by traffic engineers in the EIS for that route, but council's engineers considered that there was still additional stuff beyond that what was provided in the EIS. So we, I don't know whether we could phrase it to say that council was dissatisfied perhaps with the extent of the upgrading proposed in the EIS and requests additional measures be investigated, particularly at certain points, such as the Ginger Walla Walla Linda Road. Dot point 1.
Because if it seemed as though all this was going to come through the middle of Ginger, I'm sorry, but I would be out there getting people stirred up about it. Because when my granddaughter stands on the other side of the road waiting to cross because there's too much traffic, I think, well, this is just going to be bad.
Is there any other way for the traffic to go?
Mayor, why wouldn't we make the route, they come down Glenallen Road and turn, there'd be a fairly sharp turn into Ortlib Road, isn't it? Over the new bridge you've just widened, Mr Blackie. And they would go straight into the development, keep the traffic off Waller Road, etc., make it a designated road. They'd have to fix up that dirt road to a proper standard. I'm not sure how the helicopter people like all the trucks coming past there, but other than that, is it a sensible suggestion, Mr Blackie, or not?
Without looking at it in great detail, there are a number of options that could be looked at. Obviously, all needs upgrades, and I'd say this development is not proposing to do a lot of upgrades on roads. Their expectations is they can get directly to the site with not much work, which I disagree with in regard to that, because there's clearly some upgrades that need to be done to handle the traffic that's involved in this. And I think it needs to be investigated rather than just making a suggestion, because I think we really need to know what we're asking for. That's my only concern, unless we can refer this letter as further upgrades.
Yes, look, I think Mr Blackie's right. I think we need to have request a more serious approach to the traffic management during the construction of the project. And it needs to be negotiated with ourselves, with proper input from us into what we expect. If we don't want it to go through the town, well, we've got to say so. And don't mince words, just put it more plainly.
It's not the developer's suggestion that it go through the town. The developer's suggestion is that it come along Glenallen Road.
Yeah.
Council staff have had significant concerns with using Glenallen Road.
Well, we need to make sure it gets upgraded to a certain standard to make it a usable proposition. you know.
Mr Blackie, have you got some suggestion in relation to point 1 as to how you would think that that would most appropriately be written?
I think it, without getting too specific, I think we need to generalise a bit with traffic management proposer that the development from north requires a significant upgrade to Glen Allen Road to manage the heavy vehicle or the increase in heavy vehicle traffic that this development will create. The issue that is with Glen Allen Road, even though it's a B-double gazetted route, it hasn't got the traffic volume of heavy vehicles that's going to occur with this development. And anyone who's driven that road will be well and truly aware and a very significant increase in heavy vehicles will lead to increased risk and the more likelihood of accidents occurring. So clearly there's a need to upgrade that. Even though, yes, it's an improved B-double route, it simply isn't designed to handle the volume that's predicted. That is the issue that we've got. And I believe their traffic consultants have simply based it upon information that they believe it's an approved route, so it should be adequate. Well, I disagree with that.
No. Well, it might be okay for a few trucks a day, but not for a few hundred.
Can I suggest then that we perhaps change the resolution to say the council resolved to raise serious concerns, and then have all of that, and then have all of that as point 1, and then put further the developer be required to negotiate.
How does that look?
Madam Mayor,
Thank you. We'll resume standing orders, I think, will we?
I wanted to raise one other point.
Right.
Madam Mayor, in the last fortnight across Greater Hampshire, the prices of land has escalated somewhat to where we've seen sales of $5,500 an acre, not per hectare, and somewhere up to $6,500 a hectare on some other acre on some other parcels. I believe that exhibits the clause that should be in there, being the loss of high quality agricultural land, because those prices haven't been reached ever before in this shire. I think it definitively describes the land that people and the price that they're prepared to pay for it, and that means that it is high quality agricultural land or they would not be paying it. And part of the development consents refer to high quality agricultural land of which they're intending to establish this solar farm on. I believe the point should be left in there. And if you go and ask any of those people who are objecting, they would agree.
Pardon? I think so. I think we'll resume standing orders. Move Jenny, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Shulk, all in favour. Carried. Thank you. Now, there is a resolution up there or a recommendation.
I'll formally move the recommendation as printed on the board, part 1 and 2.
Don't wish to make any further additions?
No, I think it encompasses what I said, yes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Quinders moved and Councillor Shulk
I'll second.
will second it. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I give notice of intention to move an amendment by way of an addition. Item number 2 on that paragraph should be that council is concerned about the loss of high quality agricultural land.
How
So
are we
that'll be
going to
item
handle
number
that?
3.
There's an amendment, been moved by councillor Meyer, whether that was originally called for second.
Is there a seconder for councillor Myers' suggestion that a point be made regarding the high value agricultural land? Is there a seconder for that? No, that's lapsed. So we go back to the motion, which has just been put. We put it, so I'm going to put it. So those in favour of that recommendation as printed. We're moving too quickly for it. You've got it written down. Now we'll move. We'll vote on that motion. Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, and against? You voting, Councillor Meyer?
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm talking about, what I'm looking at, Madam Mayor. The council resolved to submit a submission of objection to development.
No.
This is what I'm voted on.
So we've got
1 and 2.
1.
So the amendment, that's due to the lack of a seconder.
So there's 1, and then there is 2. That's what we've just voted on. So Quinn, Shield, O'Neill and Wilton were in favour. Councillor Meyer,
I still will object to it, Madam Mayor.
you'll object. Against. Councillors against. Thank you. That has passed through. Thank you, Councillor. Yes. You might finish filing.
So you've written down that. No, I've got that.
Okay, we're now on to item number 2, the amendment to the Greater Hume Local Environmental Plan.
I formally move the recommendation as printed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Quinn.
Second that.
And seconded, Councillor Hicks. Do you wish to speak?
I hope they'll rezone it after it was rezoned a while back, which, if you remember, Mr Director, I did object to, but anyway. I think it's a good move forward because there is a big demand for industrial land.
Very good. Any further speakers for or against? Prepared to vote? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Governance, the annual report.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Myers moved
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
and Councillor Quinn has seconded. Any speakers for or against? Prepared to vote? Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. The delivery plan and the operational plan
So moved, Madam Mayor.
report. Councillor
moved, Madam
Meyer and Councillor Quinn. Do you wish to speak, either of you? No. Anyone else? Councillor Shaw.
There's just a couple of things. The Grubben Road reconstruction, I've had a couple of complaints of the timing of that. Was that because of a particular time frame with funding? It was right when harvest had started. Around Henty it's a bit earlier than some of the other places, and there was some issues raised that it was very untimely that they were held up with traffic lights, and then another person that was trying to get out to visit the cemetery, but that was, I knew that was coming up, that reconstruction, but was the timing right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. The weather has obviously impacted both the Hendy Rail Crossing project and the Grubben Road project, and if we hadn't start when we did, we won't meet our timeframes. I believe the delays are quite minimal, and staff are indicating it's very minimal. I know there is delays, but you're talking less than 30 seconds or something like that. And I believe, I can only go by what staff are saying, that they've been minimal. But yes, if we had all the time in the world, we'd love to do it another time, but the weather is impacting, and we've got to get these projects done over the summer period.
Thank you.
All right, prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item number 3, policy development.
Move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Seconded, Councillor Schill. Thank you. Wish to comment? No. Prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item number 4, the Greater Hume Council response to the coronavirus. Where are we?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Second that.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Any opposition? I declare that carried. Thank you. Corporate and Community Services, the quarterly budget review.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Meyer, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Quinn. Any comments or questions, councillors? No, all reasonably.
Pretty early yet, but I would say the next quarter will show up a few things, perhaps. I hope nothing too bad.
I hope nothing too bad too, Councillor Quinn.
Okay. Prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Policy development here. The staff uniform and education and training policy.
Move the recommendation.
Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Schill.
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any comments or questions? It's all pretty standard, I think. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. The Morwatha Cemetery Management Committee, the relinquishment. Thank you. Councillor Hicks, seconded. Councillor Schill. Any? Yes.
Quick question there. Is the former chairman, is he a how long resident? Just to
through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. I know that basically the cemetery was down to, the cemetery committee was down to 1 or 2 members. But where the former president was from, I'm not sure.
He must be a staggering age, that's all, if he is.
Oh, they are, yep, absolutely. They both are, yep.
All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Fixing local roads round 2.
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Hicks has moved. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Quinn, do you wish to speak? Councillor Hicks?
No, I think it all looks quite good, and yeah, let's get on with it.
Yep, very good.
I have
do you
a
wish to speak?
question, please, to Mr. Blackie. At the workshop, we discussed that table 2, and what's happened? Where have we put the resheeting for the western roads, the gravel roads that were mentioned in there?
No, that's not under fixing local roads. That's proposed for our local community. Local roads and community program. Yeah, it's a separate program that council has already, well, will receive money for shortly. These are proposed where the other money is a bit more guaranteed, so we're putting in that program.
Okay, so that will roughly be, when might that start? Do we have any idea?
Well, no, we don't, because we haven't actually received the form. Well, we haven't received the formal guidelines or how to apply for those funds yet.
Okay.
All we've received is the amount. So I guess what we've tried to do is get a little bit ahead of the game by including it in that workshop to get, you know, I guess
Get the
some tacit
priorities.
approval
Yep.
from council.
Yep.
And once we get further advice from the Australian government as in relation to when that application has to be submitted, we'll do the same that we've done here. We'll formally bring a report back to council. unless it happens sort of, after the December meeting and before the February meeting, we'll work on the workshop paper and then bring an endorsement report back.
Okay, so as soon as we can, we will.
As soon as we can, we will, but look, yes, the process will be, we'll have to apply for funding and we haven't been advised of when that opens yet, and then we've got to wait until that is actually signed off. But the quantum of funds is guaranteed to council, so look, there shouldn't be a problem, it's just going to be the timing.
Thank you. It's just some of those, the words are almost similar in some of those funding places, and I've got them confused, obviously.
Any further comments or questions? Prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Tender, item number 2, the reconstruction of Gingellic Road.
Move
At
the
Giles Creek.
recommendation.
Councillor O'Neill has moved, and seconded. Councillor Schill. Thank you. Any comments or questions, councillors?
One quick one, how come we only end up with 2 tenders for that one? Normally the lake has been quite a number of people putting in things.
I can only think to the number of tenders we've got out and others have got out that they've just chosen specifically. This is a bit more about a major culvert upgrade rather than a more general road construction, so it has some difficulties, so the bigger contractors have gone for this one.
All right, prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Tender number TL11, Pioneer Drive, stage 2.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. And seconded by Councillor Quinn. Comments, questions?
See an old Rotary man's grown up into a development contractor.
Very good. Prepared to vote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. TL13, Drudgery Drainage Stage 1.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hicks. Seconded. Councillor Quinn.
The question to the engineer, is the pipe going to run in front of the houses facing the main street or behind?
This is for stage 1 is the eastern side, so the pipe will run behind the houses in the laneway, but there will be an upgrade to the table drain in front of the houses with new culvert driveway crossovers on that eastern side. When it goes to the western side, the pipe will go in front of the houses. But this is behind the house because the natural fall is to the east, south, that way.
It is a bit confusing, but anyway, I hope the engineering advice is correct.
Very good. It's been moved and seconded. Any other comment? If not, those in favour? No. Against? Carried. Thank you. Item referred to closed council.
Yes, so moved.
Item number 1 and 2, is it?
Yes.
Yes. Moved Councillor Hicks, seconded Councillor Quinn. Those in favour? Yes, thank you for both. Yep. Officers' reports. Part B and C. Any
I'll move that part B,
B,
C and D.
D? Thank you. Pardon? That's a matter of urgency. Yeah, but it's got... Yeah. Any comments or questions in parts B, C or D?
Do we have a seconder?
Do we have a seconder, Councillor Quinn? No comments or questions? That's very good. You're all au fait with the Christmas New Year office closure. Happy with that? Prepared to vote. Those
Sorry,
in favour?
Madam
Oh, sorry.
Just with the libraries, it's probably, that's with the grant. I was just thinking with the click and collect books, then they're having an effect on numbers of Yeah, that they
In
don't
the
get
stock.
counted into the use of the library, is that right? It's sort of giving a false impression of just seeing the library there, I wanted to mention something.
Through you, Madam
It's sort
Mayor,
of
that
looking
they,
like we're not as busy with the libraries, there's still people
No.
using a lot of books, but it's not being
that's
counted
right,
in the
they'd
use.
be counted in the loans, but they wouldn't be counted as foot traffic, no.
No.
And look, to be honest, I'm not sure that actual foot traffic, whether it's to the libraries or to lots of places, is going to ever go back to what it was.
Yeah.
It might do, but there's no sign of it so far. You know, the libraries have been open as pretty well as normal now for some time, and the people just haven't been coming back physically. I just think people have got used to doing things a different way, and they're going to continue to do it.
I would have said probably at the Gingra Hub Library that the fact that there's a number restriction might be discouraging people from coming.
Yep, because of the relatively small space. Yep, that's true. But you know, like take here at Holbrook for example. Yeah, look, I just, and you know, I've had this discussion with our library staff for a while, and we'll continue the discussions. We're no different to a lot of organisations going forward in the future. We've got to rethink how we reach out to people, because I think that's exactly what it's going to have to be. We're going to have to reach out to people in different ways rather than sitting back in the library here and waiting for people to come in the door.
There's still important points of call in the community, but it's how we go about it.
Right. It's still important, and service delivery is still important. It comes down to how we deliver that service.
Thank you.
I'd like to congratulate the library staff on those outreach visits they made to the schools and the preschools for Book Week. That's a great initiative.
Yeah. Look, I'd just like to make a comment, just basically a general comment about this. I don't think, well, I know my family is not moving around anywhere near as much as what we did previously. We're still all a bit gun shy, so to speak. We just, we do what we have to do. We don't sort of mix around too much. I've only seen my Wodonga family once since the beginning of the year, and I don't want to go over to see them because I've got another commitment that is a higher priority for me, that I don't want to be in Victoria. So, you know, I wouldn't be the only one in that category, and I'm sure most people would have some reason as to why they don't want to be out there and about. They really want to be just sort of sticking close to where they know rather than mixing around in the community, and I suppose that's what's happening here a bit too.
Yeah, no, I just sort of raised it because I thought it's still an important service and the books are still being used, but it's the statistics are giving it a completely different picture, and it just might have an impact, and then it, you know, goes downhill after that. So if we're just aware that it's still being used quite well by click and collect.
I don't think it's certainly not going to be used against us. You know, our numbers, for a whole range of reasons, our numbers always look somewhat poorer than some of the other councils that are part of Riverina Regional Library. And that, there's a number of factors, and I know that Susan Kane gets a little bit concerned about that at times, and I have to try and reassure her that it's just the unique nature of our local government area and where we are. You know, like if you're, say, at Temora Shire, where you've got one town, you know, you're a fair distance from another major centre, then of course all of your library usage is going to get travelled, you know, funneled through that one library. Whereas, given our proximity to Albury and so on, it's somewhat difficult, I think, to expect that every single library user in Greater Hume is going to use a Greater Hume library. It's naive to think that that's the case. A lot of our residents would be using library services in Albury or Wodonga.
Thank you.
All right. Prepared to vote on that one? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Matters of urgency, we have one here, and I would ask you to... Oh, so, two in here, and then two here. So I would ask, they are considered as a matter of urgency.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I just might make some comments around the first item, if you like. Upon my return from leave, I had a discussion with the engineer who, I guess, enlightened me to the fact that we've had a section of Gingerlick Road that has deteriorated very quickly due to the burnt logs coming out. And we will have to undertake some emergency repairs, but we're suggesting that perhaps that section of road should also be included amongst the application. Hence why we've brought this report back tonight. So what is proposed is that the number 3 that's on the report that's been provided to you yesterday electronically and today in hard copy is that Gingerlick Road widening and reconstruction 5 k's east of Copperbella be inserted, and then the section through the Wollongong Flats and Yinches Road and Hennells Lookout drop down one. So instead of putting in 5 applications now, we're suggesting we put in 6.
Well, that was good because there's only about 4, I thought, when we first started that workshop.
So anyway, that's just the explanation of why that report's been brought back and the change that so the councillors are aware.
Move the recommendation
I'll second it.
on page 4 of 5.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay.
Now the second one is the reference to closed council, which has already been...
Yeah, the closed council committee.
Oh, sorry. No, that's already been done. Sorry. Oh,
Yeah, that has the item number 2.
it has been done.
Right.
Oh, well done.
Nobody.
Because we would have to move this one.
No, we haven't moved.
We moved them that they...
We discussed whether they are a matter of urgency.
Sorry.
Yes.
Correct, sorry.
We've done that.
Yeah.
I'll move number 2, provision of general practice, etc. services.
Thank you.
Recommendation is it goes into the committee of the whole.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. we need a resolution foregoing report and recommendation proposed council be adopted, which involves, where are we? Need to have those. There's the, where have I got them? Yes, yeah, this one and that one. Yeah, righto. There are 3 items. Number 1 was the offer to purchase residential land at Henty. Don't think we have to say any more of it. Item number 2 was the investigation and land purchase for Gindra wastewater treatment facility upgrade. And number 3 was the matter of urgency regarding the provision of general practitioner services and visiting medical officer services at Culcairn. So, moved, Councillor Quinn, and seconded Councillor Meyer. All in favour? Thank you. There being no further business, the meeting concluded at 7:25. Meeting is closed. Thank you, councillors.
Now, just before we go,
Voted the wrong way once, or not.